Generally, in Sarawak, 50% of the forest is covered with very important timber trees.
Okay.
And we export these trees. We use these trees collectively. They are known as Maranti.
Maranti. So these are native trees. Are they protected?
Yes, they are protected trees. Most of these under forest reserve.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you show me one of them?
This is one of them. The one with the flaky bark, and then also the feature trunk. And the characteristic of these trees, you have this venation. You can see here?
Oh, this.
Yeah, connected. That's how we recognize the trees.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Are there many more to see?
Plenty.
Plenty.
Shall we go?
Yeah, let's go. As I sat in the longhouse in Lundu, listening to an old storyteller talk about his great-great-great-grandfather named Marajan, who went to the forest to cut the big trees in Gunung Gading to make himself a boat. I imagined myself walking along with Marajan from the riverbank towards the tall, dark mountain that faced the Kayan River that led to the sea. It was a long and winding journey up this river from the ocean, and only an experienced sailor who knew the Kayan River well could navigate a boat from the sea to Lundu. A little downriver from Lundu is Tanjung Tamalang, where the jungle was very thick, dark, and dense. Marajan looked up at the tall, big trees. They were perfect to make a few large canoes. He quickly got to work with his axe and started chopping away. Startled by the voice of someone crying. Marajan stopped and looked around. He too had heard the crying. He looked up at the trees. He saw the branches moving in the wind. It is just the wind passing through the branches. He muttered to himself and continued to chop down the tall tree. Suddenly, there was a scream as the tree came down with a big crash. Marajan was startled. He jumped aside, throwing his axe on the ground. He landed on his bum. He rubbed his back and got up, feeling a bit silly. When he saw the group of monkeys chattering away, he felt that they were laughing at him. He chased the monkeys away and got back to work. He took his axe and chopped off the branches, shaking away the groans that he kept hearing. Marajan worked swiftly. He just focused on cutting the tree trunk and digging out the large hole in the center to make a canoe. As he dug the trunk of the tree, he heard loud groaning. He knew that he was not imagining it this time. It was very close, so close that he freaked out and looked around in a panic. Suddenly, I saw a fog forming around us, and in the mist stood 3 tall, ghostly figures behind us. I almost jumped out of my skin. The 3 figures looked harmless. They just looked like old men with long white beards. put their hands on their sides as if they were in a lot of pain, and all three groaned together. Marajan looked at them with concern. He wondered where they came from and who had hurt them. He put his axe down and moved over to help them. What happened to you, uncles? Who hurt you? You did. The tallest old man looked at Marajan. We are the spirits of the trees. When you cut trees, our bodies feel the pain. Do you believe in the spirits of the jungle?
I do. My grandfather always reminded me that if I go to the forest, I am entering into the spiritual world of our forefathers.
Actually, that reminds me of what my Aki used to tell me when I was young.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder.
It's good for us to remind each other.
Absolutely.
Yes, shall we go?
The tallest old man looked at Marajan. We are the spirits of the trees. When you cut trees, our bodies feel the pain. Marajan was taken aback. He felt very ashamed of himself. He fell to the ground on his knees. Please, forgive me. I didn't know about the spirits of the trees. I wouldn't have cut down the tree if I knew. I will tell everyone in the longhouse not to hurt any trees on Tanjung Kamalan. The spirits seemed convinced by Marajan's honest plea. Marajan bowed humbly and asked the spirits how he should address them. The tallest spirit answered, I am Dato' Guang, and this is my friend, Petinggi Matang. The second spirit bowed at Marajan. He nudged the plump old spirit who was the oldest. And this is my friend, Temenggung Marang. Temenggung Marang is a bit deaf. Marajan bowed and said loudly, Peace be with you, sir. How do you do? Quite all right, young fellow, quite all right. But you really must not disturb our trees. It is a great shame to cut them down. I told him that already, Dato' Guang said loudly. He turned to Marajan. Young man, I know you did not cut the trees to hurt us. You did not know that they were our trees, but now you must make an offering to us. You must cut the tree trunk into 7 pieces, carve them into human figures, and place them on this little hill, as if they were looking down the river. Marajan listened carefully. He knew it was quite a lot of work, but he didn't want to disobey the spirits. He bowed humbly, agreeing to obey. Petinggi Matang pointed towards the river's edge. You must place the 7 figures facing down the river. These figures will be your watchmen. If any pirates or enemies attack your longhouse, they will warn us. grateful to you, sirs. Our longhouse has been attacked a few times, and our people have lost their heads. Datuk Guang stroked his long beard. Tumengong Marang will fire his big cannon as a warning. Tumengong Marang moved forward slightly. I will fire the cannon as a warning for you all to prepare yourselves to defend the longhouse. Marajan bowed again. Thank you very much, sirs. I will do as told. The old spirits disappeared slowly into the mist. Marajan stood there in a daze, wondering if he was dreaming. Whether it was a dream or not, he was going to keep his promise. He started to work on his task of carving the 7 human figures. It did take several days for Marajan to finish carving the watchmen figures. The wooden watchmen looked like fierce little warriors with angry faces. After Marajan had done carving the figures, he places them at the 7 spots on the hill looking downriver. Finally, Marajan hopped into his old canoe and paddled away to the longhouse. Some of his friends and family were worried for him, but some believed Marajan to be a daydreamer who lost his way. They knew that he would come back sometime sooner or later. The Orang Kaya, the longhouse chief of Lundu, heard that Marajan had returned and summoned him to come over to his house. He was curious to know what had happened to the daydreamer. Marajan told the Orang Kaya his story. The Orang Kaya called everybody in the longhouse to listen to Marajan's story. Marajan told everyone what had happened to him. Some of them laughed, but Orang Kaya waved his hand to silence them. He looked at them with a serious face. It is not a laughing matter. It will be silly of us not to obey the spirits of the jungle. After all, they do protect our people in many ways. And even if Marajan dreamed it, we Iban people believe that the spirits talk to us through dreams. So, we will not cut down any trees or disturb any spirits of the jungle. Months passed. The hard-working people of the Lundu Longhouse were planting paddy under the hot sun. Suddenly, they heard a distant blast of cannon fire. The women in the field stood up. It was different from anything they had heard before. The men moved quickly towards the longhouse as Marajan shouted, "I know what that is. It is a sign. Women and children hide in the jungle. The enemy is coming. Hurry up, everyone. Get your nyabo, get your sword, and get your blowpipes." I got myself a canoe and paddled downriver to check what was happening. Dato' Juang, Petinggi Mata, and Temenggung Marang stood at the bank of the Tanjung Tamalan amongst the wooden warrior fighters with a large cannon facing the Kayan River. The band of fierce pirates were paddling upriver. They had heard about the large longhouse in Lundu. Petinggi Matan looked down at the pirate canoes approaching the bend. They are heading to Lundu, Marang. Quick, fire your cannon. All right, he said. It was such a loud boom that Petinggi Matan and Dato' Juang jumped onto the bushes. I almost fell back into the river, but managed to hang on to some roots on the bank until Dato' Juang helped me up. This time, the pirates heard the boom from the big cannon. The pirate chief turned to his men with an angry face. That is a big gunfire. How did the longhouse of Lundu know that we are coming? Do we have a rat? Who has betrayed us? If I catch him, I will kill him myself. The pirates paddled harder with angry faces. None of them opened their mouths. Suddenly, the lookout man called out, "No, chief. Lundu is still far ahead. The gunfire is coming from that patch of jungle near the river bend, near that big black mountain. Maybe it is another group of land Dayaks." As the pirates paddled as fast as they could, the chief looked up and saw Gunung Gading. The big black mountain loomed over them like a giant spirit. The pirates were struck by fear. They paddled furiously to the opposite side of Tanjung Tamalan. They were confused by the shadow of the mountain that seemed to grow bigger. Dato' Juang changed his voice to sound like the pirates' chief and called out, "This river is going nowhere. The mountain is right across the river. Look out, man. You are a fool. You brought us up a lagoon. You are a big fool." The lookout man was angry because he was called a fool. He felt insulted by the chief. He shouted back at the chief, "It was your idea in the first place. Turn around if you like, Tuan Chief. I never wanted to go to Lundu anyway." Another pirate joined the lookout man. "Yes, Tuan Chief, you were the one adamant to come to Lundu. You said they had a lot of gold and silver hidden in their longhouse." The chief pirate was irritated with his men. He looked at the mountain closing in on them. He turned and shouted at his pirates, "Turn around! Quickly! I think we got into a side riverbed mistake. Turn around!" The men obeyed and turned in the opposite direction. This time, Petinggi Matang changed his voice and made it sound like the lookout man. "Hey brothers, we are paddling in the wrong direction. We are going in circles. We are caught like rats in a trap. The mountain is going to swallow us up." The pirates were angry and confused. They were all shouting against each other. Soon they were fighting amongst themselves. Temangong Marang decided that it was time to fire his cannon again. The boom from the cannon was much louder than before, and this time the whole river was enveloped by a thick fog. In a great panic and confusion, the pirates fought each other with their swords and guns. All of them fell into the river. Only the chief pirate managed to crawl out of the water and up the hill. He then saw the wooden figures that Marajan had carved, lined up at different places in the jungle. In the fog, they looked like an army of very strong little Iban warriors. The chief pirate raised his sword to fight with one of the wooden figures. Dato Guang, who was standing near the figure, raised his hand and snapped his finger at the pirate chief. The pirate chief was thrown down the hill and into the river. All the pirates died in the river. Orang Kaya instructed the men to dig graves and bury the dead pirates. Whoever did this saved our people in Lundu, he said. Some of them wanted to keep the pirate boats because they were much stronger than the ones that belonged to the Lundu Longhouse. But Marajan spoke up. No, they belong to the spirits of the jungle. We will let them float down the river to the sea.
So Laura, what do you think of today's fox tale?
Well, I think that the moral of it is how it's so important to respect the forest and the spirits that protect it as well.
Yes, rainforest is very important for life on Earth. And rainforests produce oxygen, and without oxygen, life cannot exist. And if we destroy the rainforest, we will destroy ourselves.
That's such an important message.
Yeah.